What's up guys, and welcome to a new video. This is the endgame guide to my Twisting Blades Rogue, and I am currently level 97. And this build has been awesome. It's just blasted through everything with no issues, and it's been really fun overall. I did invest heavily into damage with the build, and I have seen ticks around 1.5 million, which is pretty good for not running combo points or the barber. In this guide, we will cover the skills, specialization, gear, aspects, malignant hearts, and the Paragon Board, followed up by a tier 65 Nightmare Dungeon gameplay. Timestamps will be down below, so feel free to jump ahead at any time. Let's get right into it. Alright, we'll briefly go over the skills used for the build. Up here at the top we use Puncture. At this point we only use this if we need to reapply Vulnerable, which we don't really need to because of an aspect that we have, and we also use it if we need Generate Resource, which is not too often. We have Twisting Blades. This is our core skill, it's our bread and butter, our damage dealer. Dash. Now, dash is awesome. I like it because you get 2 charges. It helps in a lot of ways. You get around the map quickly. A lot of people are going to ask, why aren't you using Shadow Step? Well, I did use Shadow Step also. I chose to go with dash. I do have a setup for this guide with Shadow Step, a pair of boots that you'll switch out to, and you just basically switch from dash over to Shadow Step. It's really simple if that's the route that you want to go, but I did choose dash. Right here for the trap, we take Poison Trap. This is awesome. It gives a 30% chance to reset our imbuement skill cooldowns, gives us damage, a lot of damage in the Paragon Board, gives us crit chance in our skill tree. It actually knocks enemies down. It just does a lot of good things for us. And we also took Shadow Imbuement and Poison Imbuement. Shadow Imbuement's great for blowing up packs, nice explosions, getting rid of trash mobs, and Poison Imbuement is awesome for high DPS, taking down bosses or tougher elites. Alright guys, into our specialization. For our specialization, we are going to take Inner Sight. Basically, we could have took combo points and you get a little bit more damage here and there out of combo points, but I didn't want to go that route. I don't want to be spamming my Puncture and then Twisting Blades. I just went with Inner Sight. Gives us a lot more energy, and it gives us 4 seconds of unlimited energy. So it's just really awesome. So that's our choice on the specialization. Alright guys, we'll go ahead and jump into the gear and aspects, and then we will go over the malignant hearts after that. Go up here in the helmet. Now for the helm, you want to try to get +4 ranks to Shadow and Poison Imbuement. And also you definitely want to try to get the life on kill. That helps quite a bit with the build because of the recent nerfs to Siphoning Strikes. We don't use Siphoning Strikes anymore, so this helps to keep our life up. And then also, we used the aspect of Stolen Vigor right there. You're going to see each stack of momentum. Key passive heals you for 331 life per second. That's like, we're always at 3 stacks. That's almost 1,000 heal per second. Plus the life on kill, I mean, we're hardly having to pot, just here and there. So it's really nice. It helps keep our life up at all times. Into the armor for the chest, we use Aspect of the Protector. Gives us a barrier every 30 seconds for 10 seconds when we damage an elite, which is really nice. On there, basically with the chest and the pants, you want to try to go with as much damage reduction as you can. You can also get life on those. I've got some intelligence right here just so that in the Paragon Board I can meet specific deadlines with stat points that I need. But you don't have to go with that. I mean, you don't have to go with any damage. I would definitely go for damage reduction or life though on your chest. Now into the gloves, you definitely want to go with a pair of gloves pretty much similar to these if you can get them. You want to get 4 ranks to Twisting Blades. You want to get crit strike chance, attack speed, and lucky hit chance. Overall, those are the best choices that you can get on the gloves. For the aspect right here, we're going to go with the Mangler's aspect. You can see right there, dealing direct damage to a vulnerable enemy has up to a 45% chance to daze them for 2 seconds. And because of our malignant heart choice, we want to try to daze or stun or slow or whatever. We want to try to crowd control enemies as much as possible. And also, anytime that we daze enemies with this build, we also knock them down because of our skill tree. So you definitely want to try to get the Mangler's aspect on your gloves. Down into the pants, we go with the aspect of Disobedience. You can see down there you gain 50% increased armor for 4 seconds when you deal any form of damage, stacking up to 30%. Now you could put that aspect onto your amulet and get a little bit more out of it, but I didn't because I wanted to get more damage instead of armor. But like I said, you could put that onto your amulet. This is the best aspect in the game as far as defensively. It's going to give you the most, so you definitely want to have the aspect of Disobedience. Now into the boots, you can see right here that I'm running Penitent Greaves. Penitent Greaves are really nice because they leave a trail behind you that chills enemies. That's another form of crowd control. And you also deal 10% multiplicative damage, 10% more multiplicative damage to chilled enemies. We want to try to have as many, you know, crowd control effects that we possibly can. So that's the reason that I went with Penitent Greaves. Now, if you decided to go with Shadow Step, though, you would want to get a pair of boots like this. Try to get movement speed, energy cost reduction, dexterity, whatever good stats that you can get on your boots. And then also you can see right there that I have Ravager's Aspect. Now, the Ravager's Aspect, you can see Shadow Step has an additional charge. Killing an enemy with Shadow Step refunds a charge and increases the damage of Shadow Step by 2%, 2 seconds, up to 10%. Really nice. You get 2 charges with Shadow Step, and if you kill an enemy with it, you can get a charge back. That's like the best aspect you can have. Now, I will say this aspect was really hard. This is the only one, hard to find. This is the only one that I found all the way up to level 97 so far. So if you find that aspect, definitely hold on to it. Over here into the amulet. Now for the amulet, the aspect that I put on there is Edge Masters, because you get more out of it. You can see right there, skills deal up to 29% increased damage based on your available primary resource. Now in our specializations, we went with Inner Sight, and with Inner Sight you get 4 seconds of unlimited resource, and that's, you know, going off pretty often, so that gives maximum effect to the Edge Masters aspect. So I really like to have that on my necklace. You want to try to get, you know, cooldown reduction if you can for your traps or your imbuement skills. You definitely want to try to get energy cost reduction. I got 3 ranks to exploit, which is really nice. You can get damage. You can get ranks to your different skills down here. Your poison imbuement and your shadow imbuement. Those are the things that you'd like to look for on your amulet, though. Now into the rings. You want to try on your rings to get crit strike chance, crit strike damage, vulnerable damage, and if you can, lucky hit chance. Now, I have some pretty decent rings right here. You can see I have pretty nice stats on them. And then on top of that, for the aspect on here, we went with the Ravenous aspect. Killing a vulnerable enemy grants you 60% increased energy regeneration for 4 seconds, which is really nice to have for your energy. On the second ring, I use Circle of the Umbral. You kind of want to go for the same stats on the rings. I use Circle of the Umbral. Now, this restores one of your primary resource when you crowd control an enemy. You can get up to 4. I haven't found one anything higher. So this is just out of the codex that I imprinted that, but definitely want to go with that so you don't have any problems with your resource regeneration. Now down here into the weapons. Now I went with swords. You can go with daggers if you want. They have a higher base attack speed. It's all up to you. I like the swords though, and the pluses that you get inside the skill tree for the swords. Now on your weapons, you want to try to go for vulnerable damage, dexterity, core skill damage if you can, and critical strike chance. Now I couldn't find all that on both of my swords, and actually the 38 all stats helped meet some things in the Paragon board for me, but definitely you want to try to go for those on your swords. And then also for your two-hander, your stat stick right here, you want to go for the same stats. Up there I have damage to close, which is pretty good also, but in a perfect world that would be core skill damage, dexterity, vulnerable damage, and critical strike damage. But still, my stat stick is pretty nice. It's got, you know, good stats overall on it. And you definitely want to use the crossbow for this. It gives you the implicit of 21% increased vulnerable damage. You don't want to use a bow because you get damage to distant enemies. For the aspect on your crossbow, you want to go with the Blade Dancer's aspect. That's a really important one there. You get 100% increased effect on your crossbow with your aspect. So you want to put the Blade Dancer aspect on there. And that basically makes it to where Twisting Blades orbits around you and does a ton of damage. So definitely want to have that there. The aspects on both of your weapons down here. For the first one, you want to go with the Accelerating aspect. Critical strikes with core skills increase your attack speed by 25% for 5 seconds, which is awesome. The higher attack speed, the more you're attacking, the more damage you're doing. On the second one right here. Now, this is kind of important. You can actually get this out of the codex, but you want to go with the Blast Trapper's aspect on one of your swords. And the reason that you do this, because it helps out with bosses. If it takes, you know, we do inflict and make all enemies vulnerable on hit because of our Paragon Board node, but that's only for 3 seconds, and that can only occur like once, I think every 10 seconds it is. So with this, with the Blast Trapper's aspect, you can see dealing direct damage to enemies affected by your trap skills has a 48% chance to make them vulnerable for 3 seconds. So it basically keeps that vulnerable uptime on bosses and harder enemies going at all times. You always want to keep them vulnerable because you're doing a ton more damage when an enemy's vulnerable. So you definitely want to go with that on your sword. Now we will go into the Malignant Hearts. Right here at the top, where the Wrathful Heart, we have this one right here. Your damage over time effects are increased by 46% for each crowd control effect on a target. And then when you stagger a boss or an unstoppable monster, you get 141% increased damage from your damage over time effects. Now, our poison trap and our poison imbue do damage over time, and we can have like 3 different crowd controls on an enemy. You know, that's 3 times 46%, which is multiplicative. That just adds a lot of damage to our poison, which is really nice. So that's why I went with that Wrathful Heart. I didn't want to go with the Barber. A lot of people use the Barber, and I'm trying to stay away from that. I enjoyed this, though. It was a lot of fun with this. Down here now into this one, you want to use this heart right here. When you use a subterfuge skill, leave behind an unstable shadow decoy trap that taunts enemies. The shadow decoy trap will explode after 4 seconds. This shadow decoy is actually really nice. It makes it to where it kind of draws enemies in and gets them like crowded around into one group, and then you can just take them out pretty easily. And anytime that we use our poison trap, it's a subterfuge skill, so that's constantly going off. So it's really nice to have that. You want to try to go with that one. For the malignant heart down here, we have the brutal heart. Basically, this gives us 19.5% damage reduction. You can see right there, 19.5% of incoming damage instead suppressed when you use a defensive subterfuge or macabre skill. All suppressed damage is amplified by 250% and explodes. Makes an explosion around you, and that explosion actually makes enemies vulnerable, which is kind of nice. But really, just having that 19.5% damage reduction is nice overall. It helps your survivability a lot, which this build has great survivability. Alright guys, so we will quickly go over the skill tree. Not a whole lot has changed here, but I will go over it. So up here we take Puncture, and we go back into Fundamental Puncture. Puncture just helps generate resource and can make enemies vulnerable. Over here we're going to take Twisting Blades, and we obviously want to, you know, go max level on that, level 5. I have 9 because of my gloves. We're going to come back into Enhanced Twisting Blades and into Improved. Now this makes it to where enemies that are impaled with Twisting Blades are dazed. I'm trying to crowd control as many enemies as often as possible as I can. You could go back into Advanced and get a little bit of cooldown reduction if you wanted to, but to me it's not really worth it. I like to have the Improved Twisting Blades. Right here in our core skills, we're also going to grab Sturdy, 12% close damage reduction. We're not going to take Siphoning Strikes. We don't need it with our setup, and in my opinion it's garbage now after the most recent patch. Down into our agility skills, we're going to come over here and get Weapon Mastery. We're going to get 3 points into that. Gives us more damage overall. We're going to come down here and get Concussive, 3 points, and 1 into Trick Attacks. Basically concussive, after knocking back or knocking down an enemy, you gain 12% increased critical strike chance against them for 3 seconds, which our poison trap is knocking enemies down. And then also when you critically strike a dazed enemy, which we're almost always dazing enemies, they are knocked down for 0.5 seconds, which helps a lot, especially like on elites. It keeps knocking them down left and right. We're going to take Dash right here. Now with Dash, we're just going to put 1 point here, 1 down into Enhanced, and then 1 down into Discipline so that it slows enemies. It's another form of crowd control. Really nice to have. Now, if you didn't want to take Dash like we talked about before, come up here, take these points out, 1 into Shadow Step, into Enhanced Shadow Step, and then back over into Methodical Shadow Step, which will make it to where you stun enemies for, you know, almost 2.5 seconds. For our Subterfuge skill, we're going to take Poison Trap like we talked about earlier, down into Enhanced Poison Trap, knocks enemies down, and then Countering Poison Trap, 30% chance to reset your imbuement skills, which is awesome. Over here into our imbuement skills, obviously we take Shadow Imbuement and we take Poison Imbuement. Shadow Imbuement just basically makes it to where we blow up packs. Really nice. Just 1 point into that. You're going to want to max Poison Imbuement because we're trying to get as much damage out of this as possible. Back into Enhanced Poison Imbuement and then Blended Poison Imbuement. And then also we're going to take Shadow Crash and Consuming Shadows. This is going to help with our energy regeneration. We get 20 energy on every enemy that we blow up with Shadow Imbuement. So that's pretty nice. We're going to go 1 into Deadly Venom so we can get back here into Debilitating Toxins. What that's going to do is make it to where poison enemies deal 15% less damage to us. Down into our ultimate skill, we obviously don't take any ultimate skill. We will take 3 into Intervention. Unlucky hit up to a 30% chance to get 8 energy back, which I think we have like 37% chance lucky hit with our Twisting Blades, which is pretty nice. So that's more energy regeneration. We're going to get Trap Mastery. When Poison Trap or Death Trap activates, you gain 12% increased critical strike chance against vulnerable enemies and crowd control enemies for 4 seconds. Really nice. We're going to come down here into Adrenaline Rush. While moving, you gain 5% increased energy regeneration. Not too worried about that, but we come back to get Haste. We want 3 points into that. While at or above 50 maximum energy, gain 15% increased movement speed. While below 50 maximum energy, gain 15% increased attack speed. And then we're also going to come into our key passives, and we're going to take Momentum. It's really helpful, and You know, as you can see with 3 stacks of momentum up, you get 20% increased damage reduction, 30% increased energy regeneration, and 15% increased movement speed, and we always have 3 stacks of momentum up. Alright guys, now we are going to go ahead and hop into our Paragon board. I am halfway through level 97. I did do all of my renown, so I'm only missing 10 Paragon points, which I will show you where to put those when we get to the end of the Paragon board. And then also guys, there will be a link down in the description if you want to check that out. If you want to see this, you know, build on a website and the full Paragon board there, you can, but I will go over all of it right here. So we're going to go right here into the starter board. We're going to come up, get prime for damage and life. We're going to come up here in our first glyph socket. We're going to put closer, cutthroat skill damage, and then we meet the additional requirement. We get 10% reduced damage taken. We're going to grab right here lawless, and we're going to grab skillful. Now we're going to come up here. The next tree that we're going to come into is deadly ambush. We're going to come around here. We're going to grab cunning. We're going to come up here, and we're also going to grab engineering. Right here we're going to have turf for our glyph. This gives us damage to close enemies and damage reduction against close enemies. We're going to want to come over and get deadly ambush. This gives us 23% multiplicative damage, increased critical strike damage to enemies affected by your trap skills, which is awesome, helps with harder targets and bosses and stuff. We're going to come over here. The next board that we're going to come into is exploit weakness. We're going to come up here and we're going to grab Hunter Killer for some damage to elites and movement speed after killing elites. Make sure to get this extra damage right here. We're going to come down in this glyph socket. We're going to have combat. This is like our second most important glyph overall. You definitely want to max out your glyphs, guys. All my glyphs are at level 21. After 15, you get the bigger radius. And at 21, that's the max. You get the most damage out of them. But right here, we have combat. It gives us critical strike damage. And then we hit the additional bonus. Skills that critically strike restore 12% of their energy costs, which helps out with our energy restoration. Come over here into Artifice. Vulnerable damage. There's more vulnerable damage in the area. We're going to get dosage right here, 10 dexterity, and then we grab these down here. Then you're going to want to come over here and grab exploit. And the next board that we will come into is the no witness board. We're going to come down here, guys. We're going to grab this one right here. We're going to put exploit. It's got 54 strength in this area, which is nice. It'll get us 42.8% at level 21 glyph. Do vulnerable damage. Over here, we're going to take training. And then we're also going to take knowledge. We're going to come down here into ruin. It's going to give us more crit strike damage. The next board that we're going to come over into is tricks of the trade. We're obviously not going to take that. We are going to come up and get havoc though. A lot of crit damage, and there's crit damage around here and also physical damage. Down here we're going to put in control. Now we just want to hit the at least 25 intelligence, so we get the additional bonus out of this. You deal 10% increased damage to slowed or chilled enemies. That's multiplicative, or instead 20% to stunned or frozen. Now, if you used Shadow Step, you would be stunning enemies. I mean, you could get, you know, a 20% multiplier right there. But I do use dash, so we're just slowing enemies, and we also chill them with our Penitent Grief boots, which is pretty nice. So that's where you use that right here. And it also gives us a little bit of damage to crowd control enemies. Over here, we're going to get damage to elites in this area. We're also going to come up into this board right here, the cheap shot board. We definitely want to have cheap shot. This is a really powerful legendary node for the build. And then while we're over here, we're going to grab oppress on the way up to it, which is nice. More crit strike damage to crowd control enemies and damage to crowd control enemies. Okay, so like I said, guys, this is at level 97. Now, at this point, there will be 10 points left up to a level 100. What I was going to do right here is come over here and come down and grab Brawler to get more damage to close and damage reduction, and then you could get more damage to close over here or more damage reduction if you wanted to. You could take this node right here for more damage to elites, or back over here you can come up here for movement speed after killing an elite and more damage to elites. So that's all up to you. But with those last 10 points, like I said, I was going to come down here and get Brawler and then probably go around it. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. There will be a tier 65 Nightmare Dungeon gameplay right now after this if you want to check that out. This build's been really fun. I thank you guys for all the support recently. It's been awesome. You guys have given me a lot of great comments and stuff on the videos, and I really appreciate it. If you did enjoy this guide and it was helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave me a comment down below, guys. Helps with the algorithm. Let me know anything you would change or do different, or you guys enjoyed this build if you've already tried it. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching.
I'm not ready yet. Time to recharge. Need more time. I'm not ready yet. Time to recharge. Need more time. Out of energy. Time to recharge. Need more time. I'm not ready yet. More time. More time. More time. Need more time. Don't have enough energy. I'm not ready yet. Time to recharge. Needs time to recharge. Need more time. I need more time. Time to recharge.